got the heat.
Hey everyone, it's your girl Kimberly Shinover coming to you from Northern Virginia.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Nicole. I'm here in sunny Florida. It has been fabulous. It's not too hot. Thank goodness. So good to see you all.
Good evening. I am LaVonda Johnson here in Birmingham, Alabama, and we have an exciting show for you this evening. I am going to introduce our speaker to you this evening. I'm so excited to have her here. We're going to be talking about fostering healthy emotions in children. To me, it falls in line with everything that we talk about and everything we stand for here. We're all about making sure that we express ourselves, and a lot of times as adults, to me, sometimes it's a little bit more challenging once you have those foundations and behaviors built in. It's not that you can't change, but I think it would be a lot easier to change if we change those things on the front end. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce our speaker for this evening. Her name is Mary Parker Goodwin. She is married to Kendall Goodwin. She has one son, 4-year-old Kendall Goodwin Jr. She is a 2002 graduate of Alabama A&M University with a BS in Communications and Science and Disorders. She's a 2007 graduate of the University of South Alabama with an MS in School Counseling. And she is a 2016 graduate of the University of West Alabama with her EDS in School Counseling. And currently, Mary is employed by the Mobile County Public School System for over 20 years at the end of this school year, and over 11 years as a speech therapist, and 9 years as a school counselor. So help me welcome Miss Mary Parker Goodwin. Hey, Mary.
Hello. Welcome.
Hello. Hey, everybody.
Good to see you. Good to have you.
Good to have you.
Thank you for having me. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you very well. All right, so Mary, tell us a little bit about how you got started into education. Was it always your dream or your passion to be in education? How did you get drawn into it?
So I'm from a family of educators. Both of my parents were educators. My dad was an art history teacher, and he also taught health. My mom majored in history, and she taught straight out of college. She taught elementary school. She did a little bit of chapter 1, it was called chapter 1 back then, and she eventually became an administrator. We have several aunts who are also in education, and I was influenced by a speech pathologist at the school. At the time, she worked with my mom. I was no longer there, and I was just intrigued by the work that she did. And it was then that I knew I wanted to help children, particularly children who were disadvantaged in some manner. And so I stayed with it. My undergraduate is in communicative sciences and disorders. So I did speech therapy, school-based therapy for 11 years. I enjoyed it. But I got to the point where I knew I would want to do something different, but still with children. And so I looked into school counseling. I had a really good friend who was a school counselor, who had been a school counselor for about 2 years at the time. I talked with her, I watched her, and then I enrolled back into school, got my master's, and eventually pursued my EDS, and loving every minute of it. Very rewarding field.
Okay. So what's the age range that you work with?
I have the littlest people in Mobile County Public School System. So my school, when they enroll in August, when they start, they are primarily 4, but we do have 2 classrooms that are blended with 3-year-old peer models and 3-year-old students who have IEP. So 3 and 4.
Wow. Okay, so talk to us about how you go about fostering healthy relationships or emotions in children. How do you do that?
So for us in the school systems, we do that by relationships. As you ladies know, relationships are huge. So when we get them, we just start developing those positive relationships with them. And We acknowledge their feelings. That is a very big part of emotional awareness and socially and appropriately expressing yourself. So we do things like acknowledge their feelings. For me in my room as the counselor, because all of my kids do come to me weekly for whole group lessons, we talk about feelings. We talk about how to express ourselves. We talk about how to manage anger, how to recognize the feelings of their peers. So we do those types of things.
Cool.
Okay.
I'm curious. So sometimes it can be difficult for children to pick up on cues. So I'm pretty sure that's part of what you're teaching. How do you do that with them? Because maybe a situation doesn't necessarily come up. So how do you have that discussion about? It's probably nonverbal cues that mostly you're picking up on. You're trying to teach them about. So how do you do that?
Like, what do you mean? Like something like
Uh,
maybe anger or something?
yeah. So yeah, how do they? Because all kids are not going to express anger the same way. We know of the kids
Mhm.
that kind of store up something. We've all been subject to that, right? Where you did something to them maybe 2 weeks ago, and all of a sudden, this week is when they're gonna get you. So how do?
Well, so when I do those lessons, we start I call it's anger and self-control. And so when I talk about anger with them, the first thing I tell them is that it's okay to be angry, because sometimes at their little ages, their perception, it's off a little bit. So I have to teach them that first, that anger is okay. Anger is a normal emotion that all of us will have and will experience. And I also tell them that, actually some things should make you angry. But when you're angry, you have to control yourself from a head. I'm talking to 3 and 4-year-olds. So I say from the
Right.
top of your head down to the bottom of your feet.
Right.
And I say that because I go on to tell them you got to control your hands. You don't get to hit, you don't get to throw, you don't get to kick, you don't get to mouth back to an adult, roll your head and all that stuff. And so
Yeah.
once we establish that, then I go into breathing, counting to 10. We love to smell the flowers and then blow out the candle. We teach them how to count on their fingers, and I do stretching exercises with them.
Awesome.
We do yoga, and at my school, we actually have a yoga instructor that comes. So we do
Wow.
exercise. We talk about dancing. One lesson, we just go through a YouTube link with silly moves, because we teach them, like you said, everybody is different. For some people, it's breathing. For some people, it's counting. For some people, it's going to take a run.
Right.
So the goal is to just equip them with this bag of tools that they can pull from and use when they need it, And they'll tell you, they know what works for them. Our classrooms have these things called cozy cubes. And so, sometimes you're a little disgruntled because you stayed up late, you didn't sleep well. So they know that's another resource in their rooms that they can use to gather themselves.
Wow. Can you teach us how to put that into
Right.
adult environment? Because I think some adults that didn't get that as kids, now we have to deal with that. So, and that's why this subject is so important, because it gets translated. We laugh about it, because it is kind of funny, but when you look at it in the big, it doesn't stay funny when that happens in adults, and different things, occur, violence and different things can happen. And so, I think that it's extremely important. I was a pediatrician. We won't even talk about how long, but anyway. So I was a pediatrician before I started doing weight management. And that is such a tender age, but they do soak up things, and you can have conversation with them. And they're actually listening. They want to learn. They want to hear what you have to say. And so I think that that's really important. I actually just came from a Head Start advisory committee meeting that I went to today. And so those are some of the things actually they were talking about, that, behavior. So they have a lot of support in that. But we also talk about how they were talking about how food and kids having proper nutrition and what have you also add or take away from appropriate learning, behavior, all of that. And so I think that we have to remember too that those things are very much intertwined. It sounds like your school is just really progressive. So I'm being truthful that that I wish that could be multiplied, and hopefully it will be. You start in your corner of the world and then it branches out. But it's really cool that you have those things implemented in the school. That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is really good. I like how you're starting at such young age, as Dr. Nicole was saying. That's a very impressionable age where they pick up everything. If I have 3 kids of my own, 10, 14, and 18, so past that age. But I wish I can take them back to your school. But yeah, they pick up on everything, and a lot of parents don't realize that if you think you're going to a corner or going into a different room and you think your kids don't hear you, and they do, and they take those behaviors to school with them because mom and dad are doing it, so that has to be normal. So I do love that you do teach them, like, no, that's not normal. Things like that. You don't yell. Or even when parents come home, because I'm guilty of it myself, I'll be stressed out from work or something going on outside, and I take it out on my kids. Has nothing to do with my kids. I'm just stressed out. So then the kid now thinks, oh, that's what you're supposed to do. That's how you're supposed to project your emotions and your feelings. And you teach them, no, that is not correct. We should count to 10. So my question to you is, do you have instances where parents come to you and say, hey, my child taught me this today. So instead of me getting upset, they told me I need to count to 10.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
They go home and they tell everything.
That's good.
The parents are always, coming back to us and telling us what they've learned at school. And, Kimberly, just when you think they're not listening, they are. They are. When I first became a school counselor, I had a couple of people ask me, like, why do 4-year-olds need a counselor? Like, what do you do? Well, you know what? Life happens to 4-year-olds. Fortunately, 4-year-olds get cussed out in the morning. 4-year-olds have to wake up and come to school hungry.
Yes.
Unkempt. 4-year-olds don't all get tucked into bed and told, I love you. Life happens to these babies.
Yeah.
And my goal as a school counselor, and I would hope any educator, is to just intercept them when we catch them and go from there. Because the big goal is for them to get out into the world and be productive citizens. And to be a productive citizen, you need some healthy social and emotional development. Because what's established right now, it's how they view the world, it's how they interact with others, and it's gonna affect how they form relationships. So we get them. We do what we can with them, and we have a lot of success stories, and then sometimes we don't. But that's how it goes. But yeah, the parents, they share with their parents. They share everything.
That's great. We have a friend
because I'm in Alabama, and in the state of Alabama, we have to teach personal safety curriculum because of Aaron's Law. And so when we do body parts, I tell them, nobody needs to touch your lips, or front of your bottom or the back of your bottom. So I actually have kids to use that. They go home and tell their parents that to get out of a spanking. They're like, Mrs. Goodwin said, you can't touch the back of my bottom. So that's why I was laughing when Miss Kimberly asked me that. Yeah, they tell everything. They share what they learn. And they use
learn how to
their
use
defense sometimes.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
That's too funny.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Do
So,
you ever have a situation where, because most of the time, the biggest bulk of the time the child is going to spend is going to be at home. So the conflict or whatever is going on at home, they bring it to school. And so you have them there with you at school. How do you kind of change their behavior at home in order to make an effect on them at school? Because you only have them for a period of time. Do you bring the parents in, kind of like what Kimberly said? Is it a class for the parents to come in? Do you have a talk with the parent and child at any point? How do you kind of work through issues that the
When
child
those
might be having at
behavior
home?
can't get under control, you know, many times, like just as an example, you know, if you have a student that comes in first thing in the morning, upset, you're kicking, you don't want to do anything, you're slinging your book bag, we already know something happened at home, you know, that caused you to come to school. So, you know, you pull them to the side, you give them that one-on-one because obviously you missed a little TLC that morning. So, you know, we pull that student to the side, you know, we get down on their level, give them that eye contact, and just ask them, how are you feeling? You know, recognizing their feelings because 4-year-olds, kids have feelings. And, you know, think about yourself when we're sad or if we're upset or if we're angry, we don't want people to dismiss our feelings as if it
right.
doesn't matter or it's unimportant. So, you know, recognize their feelings, get them to tell us, you know, why they're feeling that way. And one of the questions that I like to ask some kids is, what can I do to help your day go better?
Hmm.
And they'll tell you, sometimes it's a hug, sometimes I'm hungry, I didn't eat, I want something to eat.
Right. Wow.
And, you know, we try to teach them like that at Lavana because we can't always address home. Sometimes that involves you calling a parent. And, you know, sometimes, well, a lot of the times, situations, parents aren't going to be honest. They're not going to just open
Mhm.
and tell you, but the kids tell you. They tell
Right.
you with their behavior, they tell you with their little words.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
we just hope that what we do at school builds them up and just teaches them to the point where they have that confidence in themselves and they can transfer it back home. That's really what we depend on. And we do parent meetings. You know, we do parent meetings too, but
Mhm.
it's we teach the child. We try to teach them to
Mhm.
develop those skills that they may be missing or lacking. And,
Right.
you know, when they develop it, they're better able to handle what's happening at home and in turn at school.
That's good. We have a friend, Lewis Fields, who talks about this topic a lot from an adult standpoint, looking back. And so, you know, you doing this, even if something, if even if the kids get off track or whatever, you know, we've learned from our own experiences as well as from him talking about his, that there, if someone is there to impact you in this way, like you all are doing at the school, it is in the memory, and especially at this age where, you know, we are um, you know, programmed, or we take in whatever good or bad at this point, and it's recorded in our subconscious, then it's still going to come forward later on, kind of like even with parents. You know, we train our kid and we do certain things and we're like, how come they're not doing this way? I told them how to, you know, they know that, but and then they come around later on because they do know what you showed them. So even if getting off track is part of the path, I think that it's good work because it will come back because it is in there somewhere.
Mhm.
And so you know, it's still worthwhile. Do you all do trainings with the teachers? Like, do the teachers, or is the school, are the school educators on board doing the same thing so that it's consistent within the school?
Yeah. Hmm. Our teachers' curriculum that they use has a lot of social, emotional components
Oh, cool.
to it. So
Hmm.
we're all pretty consistent in the building. And you know, right now since the pandemic, it's really a
Hmm.
big thing. in
Wow.
schools, especially with the lower ones, just that healthy social and emotional, because it affected our kids,
Mhm.
and just being resilient, that's a biggie too. Just helping them to become resilient. And in order for children to be resilient, they got to be around resilient adults.
Ah, really?
That helps, right?
Yeah.
They do have to have a model. Yes.
Yeah, but at my school, and we're such a cool little school. We're the only all preschool in my system, so we have 18 preschool classrooms.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. That's
You
a
can
big
check this
deal.
out right now with 11 days of school remaining. It's pretty interesting. But we are pretty consistent across the board with the social emotional component. Yeah. And it just really helps that they get a whole group lesson with me. And then, I do small groups and individuals for the ones that need that too.
Absolutely.
So before you told us what age group you were dealing with, I knew that you had smaller kids. You have a very calming, soothing voice
Mhm.
that most little children they really grasp to. My 14-year-old's counselor, he is loud. He is rambunctious. And my another one of my friends, she's also a middle school counselor. She's just as loud as she can be, but your voice is nice and calming and grassy. I love it. I just wanted to say that. But so how do you with 18, that's a big number. 18 classes. How do you let me go back. Do you ever kind of have like those couple of kids where you're like, I'm really trying to get you to understand, little Johnny, we're not going to put our hands on little Charlie today or any other day. How do you kind of work through those types of situations?
You work harder and you implement more strategies, and typically those students require lots of redirection and just lots of positive praise when they do make a good choice. You don't know always what's happening at home. So,
Mhm, mhm.
I have one little student, and that was a struggle. And so we always focus on keeping our hands to ourselves. Are you all familiar with the book Hands Are Not for Hurting?
Mm-mm.
So
No.
people
No.
constantly read that book. It's called Hands Are Not for Hurting. And then it talks about all the good things that your hands are for. So he loved this book. So I was like, okay, he likes this book. So let's
Let's do that.
And so whenever he would have a day where he didn't, he was proud of himself. He was like, I didn't hit nobody today.
Aw.
So lots of praise. We
Yeah.
want to be, sometimes when you want to be told good job, we may not
Right.
always need that gratification, but everybody likes a little pat on the back and a little encouragement. So just lots of encouragement. Lots of, oh man, you should be proud of yourself. I'm proud of you, but are you proud of yourself? Flipping it back to them. Because you
Awesome.
want your teachers to be proud of you, your parents, but ultimately you need to be proud because you had self-control. So lots of praise, lots of intervention, checking in and letting those kids know that, I'm doing this because I'm concerned about you and I know you can do it. And sometimes it works. A lot of times it works.
I
That's
love that you
good.
say that because I'm trying to build confidence in my 14-year-old. She just started volleyball, very competitive. Well, she didn't just start, but it's very competitive, and she beats herself down if she misses a shot. Like one spike she misses, she's beating herself all the way down. And myself and her father, we're the type of athletes where our coaches were, yeah. Suck it up, suck it up, suck it up, suck it up. So I tried that with her. That's not the way to go for her.
Affirmations.
Yeah,
All of my
that's what I
lessons
flipped it
end.
to.
All of my lessons end with affirmations. They say, I am smart. I am kind. I am resilient. I am loved. I am enough. And so when we do this at the beginning of the year, I tell them why they're saying it. So when they say I am resilient, I tell them, I say, hey, you can do anything. Anything you want to do, you can do. You may fall, you may make a mistake, but you can get back up, you can jump back in, you can do it. You are resilient. And so they make their little muscle,
That's cool.
Yeah, I
just
love
speak
that.
that positivity, put it out there in the atmosphere. If you say something enough, you'll believe it.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully, I'm like, okay, if they say this from August to May, just maybe in May, they will actually believe what they've been saying. Give her a chalk marker or a dry erase marker and let her write 2 or 3 affirmations in her bathroom mirror. So when she goes in that mirror, she's got to look at it and say it to herself. I'm strong. I am mighty. I can do anything I set my mind to.
I love
Wow.
that. Where is Mr. Fleming on here?
That's what I was getting ready to say. Where's Mr. Fleming? He's feeding you cue cards. He's got cue cards.
He's our mentor and our executive producer of the show. So he's y'all not gonna hear it from me, but you'll hear it from somebody else. If somebody else say it, you'll understand it. But he tells us these things all the time and teaches us about positive mindset all day, every day. So I should see
you're definitely speaking his language for sure.
Yes, definitely.
Well, ours too, because as we do our businesses and build up, we find out how much more important it is to actually do that and do it consistently. So that's cool that you're teaching them to do that, because that's a really strong tool that many kids actually don't learn.
Oh yeah.
And they don't even know what an affirmation is, or they don't even know that they've been giving themselves negative affirmations when they speak, because they hear their parents do that, and they hear that in their environment. So that's really that's very, very cool. I wanted to ask a question because we've got our YouTube audience watching, which is very good. I'm so glad all of you are on YouTube. Good job. You guys understood the assignment and you did it. You did it. So Dr. Cheryl Tolliver is actually a pediatrician in Valdosta, Georgia, and she was asking, have you been seeing children with fewer diagnosis of ADHD that come out of your setting, out of your school? Like, do you get any feedback maybe from junior high schools or high school or elementary, where you could see what that looks like?
No, we don't get any feedback. So our students, most of them, we see them just that 1 year, Dr. Nicole, because, so the name of my school is Just For Developmental Laboratory. So they're listed there while they're 4.
Wow.
They're with us for that 1 year, unless they come in as a 3-year-old peer model or a student that has the IEP, individualized education plan. We only see them that 1 year, and they go all over Mobile County.
Wow.
So they don't follow the same feeder pattern. They go all over the county. So since I've been there, and I'm wrapping up my 9th year, we've not been able to establish a system where we can track all those kids.
Get a grant writer to write a research grant. That you all are basically a petri dish.
Yeah.
For that, to gather that information. That would be amazing information to get across the country. And that would be a way for this to be duplicated, across the board nationwide. So find a grant writer to find a grant, because I'm pretty sure there's something out there related to, especially all the pieces that come together that we mentioned, nutrition and family environment and what have you. Does this particular intervention with just 4-year-olds all together, does it make a difference once they go out there? Now, you and I probably say yes, we're pretty sure for some, maybe not for all, but it would, man, that is a research project waiting to happen. So grab somebody. Somebody, hopefully somebody hears on here. Maybe we have a grant writer watching on YouTube or on Facebook, and they'll come find you. But that would be amazing to see.
Yeah, because I've never heard of anything like that here. Maybe I'm just out of the loop because I don't have children, but I've never heard of this type of program in Birmingham. Mary, you mentioned the pandemic. In your opinion, what changes have you noticed in the children since the pandemic?
the social and the emotional.
Mm-hmm.
So last year, we really got to see. So that happened in 2020, and by the time our students came into the building, I want to say it was maybe mid to late October. You could tell there was isolation.
Mm,
You
mhm,
could tell they were just surviving. Um, the emotional needs,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of separation anxiety, a lot of struggles detaching from
mm,
parents because they've been at home. Just not being able to express themselves, not being able to follow a routine and adapt because so they come to us at 4, and most of them have been to a childcare setting prior to coming to us. So let me use the ones from this year as the example. So the ones we got this year pretty much did that whole 3-year-old year at home. Because
wow.
a lot of parents were at home working from
Hmm.
home. A lot of centers, they only accepted so many kids. So
Hmm. Wow.
yeah, just the social emotional, being able to take turns.
Mhm.
You missed a whole year that you normally would have been around other peers taking turns, sharing. And then if you think about the ones who were the only child in the home, you had no interaction
Wow.
Wow.
with somebody your age that looks like you, talked like you, had the same interests that you had. And I mean, it showed. It showed
Mm,
here.
wow.
Wow.
It
Wow.
showed. They struggled across the board with transitions. They struggled with attention.
Mm.
A lot of kids watch TV for a year,
Mm.
and depending upon your home environment, that may have been the best your mom or dad or grandmother
Right.
knew to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it showed. I mean, it showed.
Wow.
But
Wow.
we've made progress. We've seen progress. We are looking at kids like, man, wow, do you remember when in August? Do you remember the first day of school? So,
Wow.
like you all have said, they're sponges. That's the beauty in this age group. They
Mm-hmm.
still absorb, they still want to know, and they still have a little bit of pleaser in them. A lot of
Mm,
little kids, they like to please you happy.
yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah. Wow.
They're gonna make it. I always say the kids, that have experienced this pandemic, they're gonna be some of the most resilient adults one day.
True.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mhm.
they've
True.
had to
True.
survive, y'all. You
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna be resilient, and I just believe they're gonna be change makers. I believe that.
Yeah, you speaking it.
Tough. They're gonna
Yep.
be tough.
Yep.
They're
Well,
wearing
and
masks. You at 4 3 years old, you wore a mask. You learned how to maneuver through life in a mask and the sanitizer, the hand washing. And the most difficult thing for us ladies was the no touching. We
Yeah.
were afraid to
oh, for
touch.
sure.
Ooh, yes.
For
Little kids
sure.
need hugs.
Isn't
Yeah.
that isn't
Yeah.
that
Yes.
part of
They need
being a 3 and
touch. That's
4-year
part
old?
of
He's
Right.
touching me. He's touching me. He's
Yeah.
touching me.
we were afraid to touch anybody.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm still hesitant now, because we did it so long. You see somebody you haven't seen and you go to hug, you're like,
Yes.
Yeah. Do
Yes.
it.
hug
Yeah.
me, hug. So that was a big challenge
Wow.
to not
Wow.
Wow.
because little kids like to hug and they need hugs.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
That's a part of
It
developing
is.
those positive relationships. Touch.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So
Let me ask one kind of devil's advocate question.
mhm.
So a lot of people have we've seen over time where we've taken on a culture of everybody gets a prize. Um, and so how does this compare it doesn't sound like this is that, but I know some people may actually feel maybe that this fosters that. What's your take on that?
No. No.
Okay. Very good. Very good.
This is, we more so, it's not, no, everybody doesn't get a prize. And we live in a world where, we don't like hurt feelings. We don't want anybody mad. We don't want anybody
Right.
sad. But I'm the opposite, and I don't mind teaching that to my children.
That's awesome.
And they love that word. It's not fair, it's not fair. But you don't get a gift because it's your sister's birthday. It's her birthday.
Right. I think you better say that for the people in the back of the room. Say it for the people in the back of the room.
Say it to my daughter, my 10-year-old.
But my goal as a school counselor is to teach them so that they can get out into the real world and function. Because in the real world, do you get a raise because your coworker got a raise?
Nah.
No. Now, I'm millennial, but I'm old school raised, and some of that, those teachings,
yes,
they were just good old school, real life, uncut teachings, And back to what Dr. Nicole was saying, no, this is about teaching them to be healthy in their expressions, healthy in their relationships, knowing how to self-regulate, knowing how to socially interact, taking turns. You don't always get to go first. Turn taking. You go, and then you let somebody else go. It's just that those basic, very, very basic skills that we start teaching at birth. When they're a baby, when you're playing peekaboo, you're making eye contact and you're teaching them to take turns. You do peekaboo, and then it's their turn. We start that at birth.
That's true.
But
then it's not reinforced, and then we lose it sometimes. So that's really good,
right?
Because you're teaching them to function in the world that we have. This is the world, and so you have to live in the world. And you're also, we talk about self-awareness a lot because that's something that's extremely important to having a strong growth mindset when we talk about that. And so through what you're doing, you're teaching self-awareness because they're aware of themselves, and then they can interact and be more aware of their environment and others around them. And so, I mean, I can't even tell you how critical that is as we go through our business, and we say how people, interact, how we interact with them, and the things that come up for people, not wanting to confront, not knowing how to deal with a particular emotion about something, can't tell somebody no, you make up a story, just different things like that come up. And I think it's because we don't have we haven't gotten enough of that, like how to actually be okay, that all those things are okay. It's okay to tell somebody no. It's okay, to do something that other people aren't doing. So that resiliency in these kids, that's why I would love to see, the scientist in me is like all the way. I want to see what that conclusion is.
I always reflect on something my mom taught me. My mom taught me you can say anything you want to say to people if you know how to say it.
Yes, ma'am.
So I just always keep that in mind. It's in your deliverance. It's in that self-regulation, when you express yourself,
Very good. Well, we appreciate the conversation. We appreciate you being here. You are doing amazing work. So keep doing it. Don't get discouraged. Keep it moving. Like I said, you do it in your corner of the world. It has to spread out at some point. So even if you don't see it, I'm sure that it is, because like you said, all those kids go elsewhere. And they're not just going to stay in Alabama. So they'll go to other places, and hopefully there's somebody that picks up the mantle and the torch and keeps it going other places and builds it. So
awesome, now that you're saying that too, I can't say the scientist in me. I didn't graduate with the BS, but I mean, But I guess the psychology in me is I want to know that research myself. I would love to see, because like you said, they're just with you that 1 year, and it would, oh man, for them to foster to another school and not keep that up, the same learnings that they're learning, they're now being taught, hopefully not taught something totally different at a different school.
Mm-hmm.
That would, I know. So I guess I'm like Dr. Nicole. I wanna see myself where these other kids are going and how that builds up, and even moving your curriculum to these other schools. Like what you're teaching them. Okay, now you've now taught this counselor at this school and this counselor at this middle school, and
Oh, speak it
everything's
into
being
existence. We
processed
already
out.
have
Yeah,
events,
I would.
and we have it
That'd be
across the country,
amazing.
Mary.
I know, right? That's just where my mind went when she was saying that. So yeah,
Wow.
we're speaking that for you.
We're definitely gonna have to look into that because we're also the largest school system in our state. So Mobile County
I did
Public,
not know that.
Wow.
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 we're
Wow.
the largest.
Yeah.
We're the largest system.
That's a major thing you have going on there. It's an unknown gem. You're the diamond inside the cave still. And
Mhm.
man, if that's spread, that would be amazing. That
So
would be really
amazing.
amazing.
So
Yeah.
amazing.
So good work.
Well, such a fantastic discussion. I don't know how she finds the time, but in addition to everything else she has going on, Mary is also a business owner. So I wanted to give her the opportunity to share where her business is and why she started it, and give the information where everybody can find your boutique online.
So, when I'm not counseling and being a mom and a wife and all that, I do I own Ladybug's Boutique, formerly known as Ladybug's Children's Boutique. So I launched October of 2018 under the name Ladybug's Children's Boutique. And so I'm a shopper. I've been a shopper all my life. I love fashion. I love clothing. And when I had my little boy, I started shopping in these mom groups on Facebook because you can get in these mom groups and we buy and we sell and we trade clothing.
Oh wow. Okay.
Mhm.
And it was it was a little obsession for a little bit. And I love dressing him. And so my mom dressed us traditional Southern clothing like monograms and smocks. And so I carried that tradition over with him. And anyway, I was piling up a bunch of clothes to consign, and I just heard this little voice say, Mary, you can do this. You can own your own.
Awesome.
You can do this. And it went from there. Ladybug is the nickname that my sister and I gave my mother. So that's where the lady,
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, I have a ladybug.
in honor of my mother. She passed away a few months before I had my son, January after
Wow.
I had my son.
Sorry.
That was January 2018. So I did a rebrand last fall and I added like a mom and me collection. I added a women's collection. And so the name is just reflective of those changes. I dropped children's because it's no longer just a children's boutique. So
Right.
Ladybug's
Right.
Boutique. And you can shop with us at www.shopladybugs.com.
Awesome.
I do have a
That's
Facebook
great.
and an Instagram page, and the handle is Shop Ladybugs 2018.
Okay.
And we'll put
Awesome.
all of that in the description
Yes.
on YouTube. So all of our YouTubers and all of you Facebookers that should be watching us on YouTube, we'll put that description in our YouTube box.
A couple of people have two things going, so
Yes. Yes.
that's awesome. My daughter actually is called Ladybug too from her
Wow.
Mine too. I
from
have a
my
ladybug as well.
my sister-in-law.
Wow.
So that's cool. That's very cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I have to channel some of that, what you were talking about, Dr. Nicole, and our businesses. You know, you have to, you're like, okay, this is how I'm going to express this, you know, and stick to stick to your guidelines and your rules. It's business at the end of the day, and you have to set healthy boundaries.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Mary. We have truly,
Yes.
truly, truly enjoyed
Yes,
this conversation.
great.
Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed myself.
You're very
Awesome.
welcome. All
All
right.
right.
Take care.
I'm gonna be checking with you about that research.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm,
going to
I'm
mention
calling
it
the state of Alabama.
because my principal would love that. She would love that. I know she would. So we're gonna get on that. I'm gonna keep you updated.
Awesome.
Keep us updated.
I
All right.
will.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you all.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Wow.
All right.
She's
Wow.
been on our mindset calls, haven't she?
I know.
No, right?
Talking all that stuff. She brought it there. I
Yeah,
think
she
Mr.
brought
Fleming
it.
was there with flashcards actually, but okay.
You think so?
See, I know. All right. So you say mention my name. Say
Right.
this here.
Exactly.
Wow.
All right. Well, this is great. So we're gonna see you all next week. Good job, you all getting on YouTube. Tammy
Yay.
and Ray Alexander. Ray Alexander, we owe you a response. I saw your comments. So Dr. Cheryl Tolliver, Tammy Speaks, Dee Parker Baker, Bridget Daly. You guys have been fabulous. Mr. Ronald. I can't forget my Mr. Ronald at all. And so thank you for jumping on. And Mr. Lewis Fields, thank you so much.
Yes,
So
good.
Definitely,
we'll see
Mr.
you all.
Lewis.
Yes. So we'll see you all next week.
All right.
Time, same bat station.
Bye.
Bye.